Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, Candace Owens versus a bunch of feminists. Now, the dress lady who Candace Owens is talking to, she has a lot of attitude, which most feminists do. They have a lot of bark, but little bite. You know, I'm heavily blocked by countless feminists. But I'm not really blocked by a lot of men. Women will talk a big game, and when push comes to shove, many of them just block, don't engage, because their snarkiness, if it doesn't get under your skin, they don't really win. So, during this conversation, Candace, I'm examining my notes here, she explains to this woman that she's an exception to the rule, and that most women can't work from home. And that a 9 to 5 is quite daunting on quite a lot of women's consciousness. And I like that Candace is self-aware, because I criticized kind of her in the past. Because it's like, you make cash money, you have a nanny, you're not exactly trad. But the good part is that she's self-aware. Unlike someone like Pearly Things, who I really abhor, goes around telling women they're not trad. Meanwhile, she's going to be 30 pretty soon, no kids. Isn't engaged, isn't married, and she went to college, even though she mocked women who went to college. Her mom was a boss babe who used nannies, even though Pearl mocks that. Now, it's not like me where I say, hey, my mom was an escort stripper, don't do that, this, and that. Pearl still compliments her mom while shaming women who act like her mom. So, there are a lot of contradictions here. So, if you compare Candace to Pearly Things, you're like, okay, there's some self-awareness there. Okay. Now, it's great that a lot more women in our era have opportunities to earn money online and to start a home business. So you can have Etsy, you can sell things on eBay, you can have a food stand, you can sell things at a farmer's market. There is a lot of things you can do to have some income where you can spend as much time as you can with your kids. The digital economy has really helped that. That's a lot different than someone who works at Safeway as a cashier, and they're like, my life is so fulfilling. Your kid is being watched by a nanny, so you can work at Safeway. It's not really purposeful. Or Wendy's, or you name it. Might as well stay home, raise your kids, and then you can always go back to those crappy jobs later on. And I'm saying this as someone who was a McDonald's fry cook and worked at Dollar Tree. Okay? Now, she mentions many women are stuck behind a desk that doesn't satisfy them, and this woman, she seems to really glorify work, and I kind of find that to be odd. Because if you think about the movie Fight Club had a really interesting nihilism, cynicism, monotonous nature to it about work life. And just how, soul-sucking it can be. In the past generations, there was a lot more art around corporate slop, about the annoyingness of corporate life. And today, you see women share TikTok reels of, come with me and see how I work, right? Surah 17, Al-Isra, ayat number 31, and do not kill your children for fear of poverty. We provide for them and for you. Indeed, their killing is ever a great sin. And in these reels where they're like, oh, see how I work, you were looking at soft, very luxurious tech jobs. Food's catered, AC's on point, very different, very different. Whereas when men have created art around that subject, even funny memes, there's some that I follow on some reels I follow on Instagram where people make fun of LinkedIn and satirize corporate life heavily, and it's just hilarious. So it's almost like women create content in order to sort of mask their pain in a way, whereas men are fine with saying this job sucks, but I'm going to do it anyways. I don't know if you've ever picked up that pattern as well. It's like women feel like they have to justify why they chose that job. And when they go to justify it, it's usually people who are able to, in terms of, oh, we get as much, the cafeteria at the office is great. The cafeteria has this salad and it's so wonderful. And, you know, the day in the life of a this or that social media person working in the office. Now, I was offered a job to work in the financial district in this one corporate office. And the welcome packet, like where they show you the office and stuff, it looks like it's pretty nice, you know, like there's like snacks and drinks and like a lot of complimentary stuff, okay? But the hours were gonna be pretty long, okay? So it was like 7-ish to like 6-ish, like 6 days a week, and commuting, you know, paying the bridge. I was just like, I can't really do that, you know. But it was interesting how the recruiters, they really try to sell you on the amenities. But if you really look at it from the back end, you're like, at that time I only had one child, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to do anything at all. And that's going to get quite lonely. And I like my children. I like my child, because I only had one at that time. You know, a job like that can wait. And so a lot of women will see the amenities and be like, yeah, this is better than being at home where you have to pick up toys or you actually have to do stuff, you know, put laundry away. And I wouldn't think that that's the best way to measure success and happiness, because satisfaction can be derived from the way in which you push your own enthusiasm onto something. So when Candace mentions that when she goes to examine her life, she'll, you know, acknowledge the success, but your children will be there, and well, that's going to be the ones to really give you some pep in your step, essentially, on your final days, and where you see the work you've done. It's quite amazing. Someone will be proud of a paper they wrote, a sculpture they made, a dish they flambéed. But when it comes to their child having a great literacy rate, knowing math, or being great at athletics, they don't take as much as compliments. It's almost like they don't have the enthusiasm to make their child a project. You know, you don't live through your kid, but you want to push your child to try new hobbies and take them hiking and fishing and, you know, get their mind exploring the world, and then see like, wow, I put so much work into this. Now, there's no guarantee your kid will turn out. Noah, remember, he lost one of his sons, didn't get on the ark and went to the top of a mountain, and he supplicated to Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was like, you know, he's not a believer, basically, and he drowned. So if a prophet can have trouble with their kid, so can we. You know, nature versus nurture, but the point is trying is my angle here. Now, Candace is advising women not to suspend the pursuit of family creation and letting them know they don't have to climb the corporate ladder first. This is really important because there's an infection in the Americana mindset where you have to get money as young as possible and flex that wealth, and then delay. And this doesn't line up with biology at all. And I see this kind of now in my own family. My step-grandpa claims to be like more conservative, but I can see some favoritism with my sister, even though she's a single mom. She stuffs her kid in daycare every day, for the most part, and she goes to med school, but she's moving up and works in the medical field. Whereas me, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to delay everything, and I'm going to raise my family first, and then if the opportunity's there later on, I'll go. But I'm still learning about those topics I love anyway, so it's not really a delay. It's just lacking the formal classroom with tests and exams to get a certification, right? So if I love theology, history, philosophy, political science, and culinary arts, I'm still doing those things constantly. And I'm still learning about them even though I'm not in a classroom, right? But you can see, well, you guys can't, but I can see this sort of, well, she's moving more towards success than you, and how they don't really see being with your kids as a form of success. And you're like, well, there's some people who are going to be pressured by their parents to delay having kids, and, you know, that's a rough one, because as a woman, the older you get, the harder is the recovery, the more difficult the pregnancies, the more higher risk of birth defects. And there will be a lot of feminists who will deny this, and they don't talk about their reality. But a good person, I would argue, who's had kids in their earlier 20s and then has had kids closer to their 40s, will be honest with women and say, well, this is my personal experience. You know, I needed a lot more help. I had a lot less energy. My metabolism was slower. And I really looked pilt back. Like, I really looked drained more. I wasn't as vibrant or strong as I could have been. And this is important because a lot of older women also have more risks of C-sections as well. So there's a lot to think about. And the corporate ladder doesn't really mean anything at all. It doesn't. That's the strangest part. But your children, they mean the world to you and you to them. That's more strong and more potent. I think it comes from this idea that women have to constantly be impressing people, instead of just existing in their femininity and appreciating motherhood. Feminists get really angry when you mention the fulfillment of children over a retarded dog or a cat. It's a very fascinating phenomenon, where women in the past were supplicating for children, wanting children, and now they're like, no, I just want to get ran through, drink, party, be like Chelsea Handler, and, you know, that's it. Well, that's pretty dark. Pretty dark. So, some women just need to be given permission that it's okay to pursue a family. And they can snap out of it and know that it's okay, because there's so much fear and propaganda pushed on women to delay their 20s. In your 20s, man, you're your most attractive. You can bounce back. You got energy. And the older you get, it's like the slower the recovery. It's just a harder road. And so, climbing the ladder is no guarantee. It's no guarantee. You don't know if you're going to get that promotion. You don't know what's going to happen. And in the past, I've shared how I was told I was going to get a promotion and then someone else got it. So a manager gives your hopes up. Oh, we're going to give you this position. And suddenly, oh, we decided to give it to so-and-so. And you're just like, ugh. Like it's nothing. Like they don't have to keep their word. They can do whatever they want. So don't bank on the what ifs. Oh, I might get it. I might get this promotion. And also, sometimes a position you might think is good will turn out to be complete garbage once you get it. Like, there's a lot of servers who make more money than their managers, but it's less prestigious, right? The servers, okay, clock in, clock out, make your tips, do your stuff. Okay, I'm out of here. Managers gotta, do way more logistics, handle different kinds of stress, and they're not gonna really make tips. And their bonus is getting, they can eat whatever they want, whenever they want. But if you look at the cash money and the responsibilities and the freedom and the flexibility, it hangs more with servers, front of house staff, than the managerial staff. And so it's really important to keep that in mind. And with these feminists, you'll see in that exchange Candace had with her, if you watch it, she says, well, that's their right. But she doesn't seem to get the cautionary tales that other women are giving her to where she can make a wiser choice, right? A lot of women will be like, there's a sisterhood, there's this, takes a village to raise a kid, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that also means advice, woman. And someone can tell you something and be like, hey, this was my path, this is what I did. Oh, she did this, and that's what worked for her. The more you hear the spectrum possibilities, the more you can see which map you need to draw for your own route. And the one cold truth is you're more attractive in your 20s and your 30s. And what is even more creepy is one time Pearl Davis, Pearly Things, said that you're more attractive like when you're like 18 before 30, right? And these women flooded her comment section showing pictures of when they're like 19 and 35, and they say, I look better at 35. And you're like, these women are quite delusional. They're quite delusional. And for some reason, women don't like the fact that your beauty, some women at least, your beauty is a good bargaining chip, and it's your main magnet for attracting a mate. Just like a man with his financial security and mental stability is his, right? And when you're in your 20s, you're able to attract a man better than in your 30s. Now, everyone stays in shape, and I know there's going to say, oh, Jennifer Lopez, plastic surgery, blah, 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 blah. Angelina Jolie, she looks still good today, but you can see the aging, which is normal. It's fine to age. We're all going to age. But that's nothing compared to when she was in her prime. Okay? Totally. The arm, skin, how, like Nicole Kidman in her younger years when she was with, what's that guy's name? Tom Cruise. Very pretty. We see her in the Sirens. No, was it not Sirens? She plays like a mom who sells books and has a husband with like 3 sons or whatever. I forgot the name of the Netflix series. But she's had a lot of work done on her face, and that plastic surgery skin, like kind of like Jeff Bezos' woman. You can see that they've done the Joanne Rivers route of like doing the balloon lips and the puffy mouth and the face stuff. It looks really bad. But you can see it that they're clinging on to their youth. They're still pretty, but it's not like when you're younger, right? And so to sit here and say, you know, those are equal in beauty and allure and infertility is untrue. And your body has limits. I don't know why feminists get mad when you talk about limits. They'll be like, oh, men's sperm start to decline at 29. It's irrelevant, honey. It's irrelevant. There's a biological reality that exists. And more women are delaying children using IVF. And it's just a mess. So just accept the biological reality. You don't have to chase this corporate dream. You don't have to. It doesn't mean anything. Oh, but I want my life to mean something. No, your purpose isn't found in this corporate slop. You're working the drive-thru at Burger King. You know, you are working as a receptionist in a hotel. Like, these are Mickey Mouse jobs. They don't mean anything. No one will remember you. No one will care when you're gone. But some women get really emotional, and they want to feel like they are integral to a company. When a company a good company isn't going to collapse because one person got changed out, right? If a CEO can be replaced, if an owner can be replaced, anyone can be replaced, then you as well and your rinky-dink job can be replaced as well. They got to keep that machine going. A tire blows, you put another one. That's how it is. But for some reason, these women, they get really mad when you talk about biological realities and beauty realities when you're able to attract a mate. And then they're like, well, that's their right. Yes, clearly that's your right. But your fertility and your beauty fade every day. So get that guy who likes you now and stop thinking there's always going to be something better at the end of the line. And Candace argues that women are trying to be both men and women at the same time, and that's leading to immense unhappiness. And some of these women, these feminists, will get upset at that. Yeah, if Shira 7 says it, and she's a gold-digging feminist who's an occultist, they'll be like, yes, queen, you're right. You have goddess energy. You have main character energy. And so you see a split. There's liberal feminists who are like drinking cocktails in the Manhattan Circle, and they're like Shiv Roy from Succession. We're like, yeah, we can just, have it all. But then you realize how you're going to be more burnt out and exhausted. And one example I learned the hard way was, like, I had a lot of energy when I was a server at this steakhouse. And the manager, Luke, who I told you in the other video, he would put alcohol in a coffee cup and drink it. He had a lot of energy as well. So when I would be setting up the tables, you could see this sort of competing with us, where who can do their job more swiftly and efficiently. And I had a lot of energy, but it was hard to kind of compete with his energy. And think about how when a trans is running against a woman, or swimming, or playing basketball, the male has testosterone, and he's like the Energizer Bunny. Doom, 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 doom. He can keep going. It's like that at work as well. We have a finite amount of energy, and women will be like, "Oh, I lose my beauty when I had kids because all the stress. My hair was coming out. I had gray bags under my eyes because I was taking care of this newborn, or I was taking care of the toddler." But then they don't acknowledge at the same time how being in a soul-sucking, monotonous job where you have asshole co-workers and a bitchy boss can do the worst upon your mental health, your spiritual health, and sitting down in a chair that long. Like, there's some women who work in the medical office and they just have this fluorescent light beating down on them. And I'm in the waiting room and I'm like, this is hell, and I'm only waiting in the waiting room for like 30 minutes. This person's got to be there for like 9 hours. Sitting there saying, "What's your medical record number? Okay, alright, man, remember that." Like, oh. And a lot of the times they're alone, and even if there's two, they can't really have a conversation. Oh, can't look at their phones. Like, oh. How does time just drag and drag? Ugh. And so, having something that entertains you and makes time move, and where your energy isn't going to be drained out too quickly by competing with the very energetic men, is important. It's something to think about. At home, you're able to relax a little bit more. There's different kinds of stress, don't get me wrong, right? But your coping options are wider. So, while the little tot is playing, maybe you put on sounds of the ocean. Or you drink some sparkling water, put a lemon wedge in a piece of mint, and you're like, ooh, practice on deep breathing, right? You can silence everything out. You can take your kid to the park, get you a nice deli sandwich, let them play. There's different ways of coping with that draining energy, but trying to be that masculine mode all the time, you lose your softness. And I know, like, for example, Ygritte in Game of Thrones, this character Ygritte, she's got an intense energy that's a bit more masculine than most, a bit more saucy. But in the end, Jon still leaves her for the Night's Watch, And Daenerys Targaryen, she's beautiful, but she has a dominant energy, and he stabs her anyways. So, he's not. Your feminine allure can work on some men and not work on others. But the more rough you become, the more masculine you become, the less ability you have to hold on to men. And that is something to think about. Truly, it is, because you don't know what's going to happen. You just don't know what's going to happen. And if more women realized, maybe I'm not getting men because I'm too tomboyish, or I'm too masculine, or I'm too forward, they could change a little bit. Doesn't mean you need to be like it can be, if you're too weak, you'll get taken advantage of. I think that's a good example of Sansa Stark. You know, Joffrey really bullied her. She had no strength about her. Then later she gets strong and watches Ramsay Bolton get eaten by his dogs. So she levels up. She changes from the dove into more of a hawk. And so women know that if you're too soft, there's definitely going to be people who take advantage of you. If you're too harsh, though, you push people away. So there's a great balancing point there. Now, Candace also points out the irony that feminists glorify career over the pursuit of family, and that it's telling women that being a woman isn't enough, and that you must be the man as well. Great point. Great point. Because this pressure of like, well, you gotta have your wall decorated with a bunch of this and that. And you just being a great mom isn't enough. But then when you look at how many people use drugs because they had a bad mom, or you watch true crime stories where there was a wicked mother, you come to realize, wait a minute, that person could be good at their job but be a wicked mother. What's better? Be a good mom but bad at your job, or be a bad mom and good at your job? Right? So either good worker, bad mom, bad worker. What you want is to be a good mom and a good worker, but you realize you have finite energy. Okay? And with the more mental stress you take on, the more jaded and short-circuited you become with your own kids, the more snappy you become. When women become very tired, they become very bitchy, scratchy, and pernicious. I mean, men get grumpy too, but sleep is really important for females' hormonal balances and for their mood overall. And when a woman is burnt out, she won't be as alluring and soft for intimacy. And then she becomes more sloppy, not taking care of herself, more stinky, fat, bitchy attitude, and then her man copes with watching adult content. She lost her feminine sexual, or she's jaded. She's, oh, I'm tired, I can't have intimacy because I'm tired. I'm tired. And okay, get some rest. Oh, I promised you intimacy, but now I'm like groggy and my mind's foggy and I can't. And it's like, well, then your husband goes and has interactions with that OnlyFans chick who she's not as busy as you, and she maintains her beauty, and now he's funneling her lifestyle and you're, going on the corporate hamster wheel. There's a lot women, I think, on the surface understand about men, but it's almost like because they get a man who doesn't really communicate very well or spares their feelings and lies to them, they think like, well, my husband can go weeks without it. My husband doesn't need me to, wear special undies or do anything spicy. He just likes me to starfish and I just think about my grocery list. It's almost like the art of keeping a relationship together and keeping the romance alive is lost on quite a few women, and I think that comes from the masculine energy. And yet these same women will look at thirst traps online of different men, and then they have a longing for those men but no desire for their husband. It's really quite strange and bizarre. And hopefully, when people look at this type of discussion, they will look at, hey, this person really is not the best one to go to, like some feminists or the feminists on that debate panel, for relationship advice. Because clearly, if a woman puts a career over child production, I say they're spiritually out of tune. Now, Candace argues that women don't need to be like men, grinding and competing, but the feminist argues that it's not sustainable to have only men providing. For thousands of years, men did provide, And it is possible for your man to be the only one to provide. He just has to be willing to work 3, 4 jobs, whatever it takes. My husband works 3 jobs, has 2 side hustles. He works every day. He doesn't have a full day off. That's fine. That's his job. I don't have a day off with the kids. I have my duties. Okay? So we have our roles, and that's how it's going to be for a while. And this is why I have said in the past, marry that immigrant. Immigrant men who come from, Latin America or the Middle East. A lot of them still have work ethic. You look at the Chinese men coming across, to America. They're first generation immigrant. A lot of them have work ethic. It's the American lads who, they want to do crypto, they want soft jobs. Not all of them, but they're not like your grandpa's generation, your great-grandpa's generation, where their hands are calloused and they're doing, labor jobs, trade jobs. Not, like a Patrick Bet-David, for example, slimy, greasy financial guy. Yeah, he got money, but it's just a different energy. If you get yourself a man who's willing to work and provide, who is middle class or a little below middle class, you'll be just fine. You'll be just fine. Inshallah. And so, you can, when they say only on one income, what you should say is, the man can have multiple streams of income, and you can be with your children, but he has to be willing to work. But you also have to be willing to play the role that you're supposed to as well. Food, cleaning, intimacy, being charming, being warm, having a sense of humor, being welcoming, navigating his moods as well when he first comes in the door. Don't lambast him with bad news. Find ways to make him feel refreshed and rejuvenated when he comes home. And then he can also help you out with the kids. Like, okay, watch the children while I go take a shower. Or, okay, I'm gonna go work out now. Can you be with the kids? And they, he'll do that. So there's, teamwork makes the dream work, as they say. So there'll be things you both will compromise on. Alright? But men can definitely be the sole providers. And it's good that it's that way. That's a man's job. Men who make their pregnant wife work, or like push her to go back to work really quick, that's pretty cruel. I don't know why feminists think that's empowering. Your little baby needs you, but you're like, nah, my job is more important than this kid. Yeah. I get more satisfaction by, answering emails than cuddling with my baby on my bed as I watch Animal BBC, Animal BBC, like My Planet, animal programs, or whatever it is you like watching that has some type of sense to it. Why would you find your body still uncomfortable? Why would you find that more enriching? But it just goes to show how deep the propaganda has gone. How far women have strayed from that feminine ethos. It's really quite sad. So, be in your feminine nature, ladies and gentlemen and ladies. Let your wife know that it's okay to not have to be in the rat race. And if your family judges her, don't even let them know. You don't have to reveal your plans to everybody. You don't have to inform them. Keep them out of the loop. If they're going to judge you for putting your kids first before career, and they value career over kids, forget them. Your kids need you. Your kids value you. And if someone thinks that money is more important than time with your kids, that's someone who is quite depraved and reprehensible. Quite honestly. Let me know what you think. Now, the next feminist that Candace speaks to, she's wearing white pants, and she mentions that, you can't live in an economy on one income. And as I said previously, materialism puts money above the spiritual nature and miraculousness of children. And that is quite strange when you look at it. Because do you have running water? A laundry machine's available to you to use, access to a heater, a cooler. You have space, you have roof over your head, you have food banks, you have access to grocery stores. These are all luxuries and gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sure, you don't have a Prada bag or 17 pairs of shoes or $300 pair of jeans or the latest iPhone baloney, but you do have a lot more than most. And a lot of women, what it boils down to is they don't want to look poor, and they don't want women to judge them for looking basic. And the great thing about Islamic clothing is you buy yourself a nice khimar set, niqab set, jilbab set, you name it. These will last you a while. You have your thinner ones, right? Then you have your nice ones that are like a thicker material. You're good. You get one for each day of the week, have a couple spares. You're pretty much set. You don't really need to be flexing on anybody. And it's okay to just not be trying to look like you're going to the Met Gala. You're on the red carpet all the time. Women often don't want to acknowledge a shopping addiction. I really think back to how stupid I was. Going after with my tips to Forever 21 and like getting the new season's worth of clothes and then taking those clothes and like getting rid of them. Like how much money I wasted. How much money I wasted. It was so dumb. Like, fast fashion. There's some good documentaries about fast fashion and how it's causing pollution because of the plastics in the fabric. And it's also fueling the cheap labor markets and the oppression of people. And who are we really impressing? And then when you look at men, they'll be like, oh, this cute cashier lady, she's a mid, she's smiling, she's friendly, I like her. But if you're like a woman who has a lot of makeup on, and you're very bitchy and cold, and you got expensive everything, you look more high maintenance, men maybe won't pick you. He'll try to have sex with you, but he's not going to try to just marry you. You look more high maintenance. And so this lie that's also fed to women is that you gotta look like really fancy in order to get a mate, when that really isn't true. It's a lot to do with weight, personality, and health, okay? And your behavior overall. So it's okay to be a minimalist, and I've really gotten more into that. That doesn't mean you can't have certain nice things. Like I have a book holder that was hand carved in Turkey, and I saved up for that. And people, when I fundraised for it, there was 2 people who gave some money, like $50, so I could get closer to the goal of getting it. And I was able to get it. Inshallah, that'll last a long time. Because I didn't want to have like just a typical metal one that looks like the kind they use for music or whatever. I wanted to have a nice wood one because it like fits my personality, and it had bolts and nuts that if they break, I can go to Home Depot and get it and replace it, and I can fix it, right? So I'm not saying you can't have some things that are gonna last, right? You know, some women want to have a nice kitchen maid or a bread maker, something, you know, an appliance. I understand. I like looking at pictures of fancy kitchens. I get it, okay? But when it comes to clothes, I just say in this economy, man, be careful. You know, you put a target on your back with very fancy clothes, and so that fast fashion, you gotta watch out. You gotta watch out. You don't want to be looking too, like, spendthrifty, because then you're not really budgeting. And I get that people treat you better if you don't look poor. And that's a sad reality. So I understand that angle as well. But your man, he's required to make sure you have clothes. But he doesn't have to buy you 20 dresses. Do you have presentable clothes? Yes. And now that I'm older, some of my pajamas have bleach spots, because I love bleach. And so when you're cleaning, a splat on you and you get those spots. The wash machines we have and where we all have to use, they kind of tear the clothes sometimes, and you'll get little holes. And I'm like, okay, my pajama has a hole. I'm not gonna throw it away because of that. I'm gonna wear it anyways. Sometimes my toddler will put her finger on the edge. There'll be a hole, or my pants will be a hole. Or my sock will have a hole, and she'll put her finger there. And one time, her pajama had a little hole. And she said, oh no. And I was like, it's okay, mi amore. No te preocupes. Don't worry. It's fine. Inshallah, you'll get more in the future. Don't worry about it. And so, it's cute that she recognized that as well. But that's just life. And if you got a sewing machine, you can stitch it up. But when certain clothes, there's the fabric gets too thin, and it'll make one of your pants tighter than the other, or it'll just doesn't look right, so you just leave the hole. And who's seeing anyways? Nobody. It doesn't matter. Some things you can have a little hole or a bleach spot. Who cares? You don't have to always be so wasteful. It's ridiculous. So some women, they know they can afford to stay home, but they don't want to look poor, because they're afraid of how women will judge them. And I say to that, boo-hooey on that. Boo-hooey on that. Now, this particular feminist also has no children, and so it's hard to talk to someone who's never experienced that feeling of when you first feel your baby move. You lay down, you see your skin move, they're wiggling. That pain of oh, here comes the baby, you're crowning. And you look at them and they're like, wah, wah. And you're just like, whoa, this baby has eyeballs and is looking at me. And then you latch them onto your breasts and you're like, my body makes food for the baby. And then they start crawling. And then they start laughing you can, oh, peekaboo. And they're giggling and you're like, this is wild. Someone who hasn't gone through that, to them, a kid is an annoying person on a plane, or an annoying kid in the cafe who won't be quiet. They don't have the same, miraculous side to them. Now, there are some women who don't have kids, who they have mercy upon children, and they work in the NICU, or they're working in a preschool. So there are some women who have that softness in their heart, and there's definitely women who had kids and have no softness in their heart, without a doubt. But when it specifically comes to talking about, because remember, the conversation Candace is having is what leads to more fulfillment, career, kids. So when a childless feminist is arguing a career is going to be better, she doesn't really know, because she doesn't have kids. And this particular feminist, the white pants, which is short, blondish, bleached hair, she seems, at least 34. So she's been rejected by men, obviously. I know you might say, oh, she might have just not wanted any of those men. But at the same time, a lot of women will get married if someone proposes. So she, initially, when you really look at the raw reality, there wasn't a guy willing to step up and put a baby in the oven, as they say. And I think that also leads to women being jaded as well. Because they've been rejected by men for family creation and marriage, they then have to cope somehow by minimizing the importance of children as a whole, in order to deal with the reality that no one wanted to have a family with them, or to swallow that regret of, I had a guy, but I lost him because of this, or this didn't work out, so now they gotta cope somehow. And how do they do that? My job is worth more anyways. So that's what I think is going on with that particular lady. She also asked Candace what time period she wants to go back to, because Candace mentions the 1950s a lot, as a lot of other people. But I think what they just look at is the marketing. 1950s had great marketing. Okay, today, marketing is just not that thing anymore. Marketing in the 1950s had a certain style of art, and the way people spoke. It was very potent. So I think people just look at the marketing and whatnot. But, I mean, it's a classic Americana marketing of the 1950s. The way the women are like, hee, smiling, kind of scary. You know, the style of the skirts and the heels and the hair. You know, it's an iconic time period. So I think that's more of what people are imagining. Is just how marketing companies always depicted a smiling woman. Whereas today, women like Ali Wong, Sarah Silverman, Amy Schumer, Chelsea Handler, they're vulgar, always talking about their vag. It's like, ugh. You know, Lena Dunham, isn't that one lady's name? Like, she, like, glorifies abortion. It's, like, very sick. And then you got, like, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj. Clearly, when you see, like, ghetto hoochie mamas and then vapid, narcissistic, lesbian-esque type of cold ice queens, you're like, oh, this is crazy. And then you see, like, the fake Christian trad influencers wearing a cross around their neck, baking cookies, showing their cleavage on TikTok. You're like, nah, that doesn't feel very Christian. You know, and then you got, like, the anti-Islam people always framing Muslim women as these oppressed women in black niqabs, and you're like, yeah, the marketing now is not what it used to be for women. So I understand the 1950s angle, because it depicts more happy, stable, sane, less whorish women, right? And, you know, some people like that business aesthetic that the men wore. Whereas now, you know, men have a gut. They're wearing sweatpants. Their shirt's too tight. They got soy boy boobs. And they got a double chin. You know, it's just not the same aesthetics as in the past. So, that lady had in her voice, though, a racial undertone for Candace. Like, oh, you're black. You want to go back to the 1950s where there's racists? Well, newsflash, lady. The MAGA-tardians, the white supremacist Christian nationalists, are bringing in that racial crap again. So, MAGA is the modern KKK, which is really quite sad. And I've shared countless screenshots of their most popular influencers saying the quiet part out loud and no longer holding back. And Nick Fuentes is one of the most popular far-right influencers, and he's not shy about his eugenic philosophy. Okay? So, having women have the capacity to stay home with their kids and be praised for it and not ridiculed or shamed for it is wonderful in any time period. Because remember, feminists say like, oh, we're going backwards. To them, progress means artificial wombs, kids in daycare all the time, universal basic income so you don't need a husband. The feminist idea of the future is women's complete liberation from any sense of duty, classical gender role duty, and ridding themselves of the shackles of reproduction so they can just smoke blunts, get high, get ran through, and get money, and they don't have to be a mom, they don't have to be a wife, they can just do whatever they want to do in their female utopia, and they can't be shamed for nothing or expected to serve anyone or self-sacrifice. They can be as selfish and greedy and egotistical as they want with no repercussions. The more you dig into the rad femme philosophy, the more you see how these women hate their own bodies. They hate the fact that they have to reproduce, that they get weaker for 9 months. They don't like having to be vulnerable and depend on a man for anything. They want to be these sort of automaton monsters who are ironclad and have no sense of softness to them. You know, it's really quite strange. Really quite strange, the more you dig into the rhetoric that they have. So, just be mindful of that. You know, when you're dealing with childless feminists, they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. Now for the next feminist that she deals with, she has brown hair and a gray shirt. Now, this lady had mad attitude, okay? And a lot of feminists, when they can't have an argument, they just try to piss you off. They're snarky, catty, wow. They're just insufferable. So props to Candace for holding her temper, because you want to backhand a lot of these women, because they're delulu. So, she, the feminist, contends that working women are less likely to be in poverty. Yes. Duh. But again, this fear of not having materialistic abundance is really something in the female's mind that haunts us. But if you look at all the favors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, access to clean water, bag of rice, beans, you got some chicken, you can have so many blessings and not even realize it. But again, they want the Birkin bags, they want the high heels, they want the, like, if they could write endless letters to Santa Claus, they probably would. Their belly will never be filled, never be satisfied. The hoarding, the greed, it just compresses and compiles into a madness scene. And so, again, money over children. Putting money over memories, money over bonding, money worship. Okay? Now, if you are in some place where there's literally starvation and your kid is skin and bones, I can understand. But in America, our poor are morbidly obese. They're fat. Okay? Time and time again, when you see people on, like McDonald's, look this up. I should have screenshot it when it came across. But McDonald's accepts EBT. Okay? You get to have some fast food with your EBT card. You know, the government should instead give you rice, beans, potatoes, cabbage, carrots, actual food. But the fast food slop is given to people instead. And the women in the past, like, I have a lot of vintage Italian cookbooks. Women would make pasta at home, sauce at home. You're poor, but you're going to make some bomb food. Like, it's going to be good. Today, the poor can't cook. They eat fast food. And they eat a lot of junk food, a lot of processed food, and they blow it up. So they are getting... You almost can identify the poor people by how fat they are. It's really quite opposite. Whereas poor people in other countries are actually skinny. Americans are not. Americans are quite fat. My mom is on welfare. She has over 5 cats. Single. She got her stomach stapled. Gastrointestinal bypass. What's that called? And she lost weight and then she got fat again. She drinks a liter of soda a day. Smokes cigarettes. Doesn't give a damn about her health at all anymore. And that's quite sad, but she's fat. I think she's like 300 pounds or something. You tell her to walk, you tell her to do this. Nope. She don't want to. Even for a while, she lived in an apartment that had a little mini gym area. Wouldn't go. Well, watching TV, smoking cigarettes, drinking soda, junk food. Can't cook. Won't learn how to cook. And on food stamps. So I sent her a bag of rice, beans, and things like that. Goya products, like at the bodegas. I don't even know if she even ate it. You know, she would stuff her face till the cows come home. And so, being poor in America, you'll have less Nikes. You may not have Chanel perfume. But if you can have access to healthcare, a roof over your head, clean, potable water, you have a dollar store where you can at least get some shampoo products, or you have a yard that you can grow your own vegetables or do something, you can survive, inshallah. So, being poor in America is not like being poor in Yemen or Sudan or the Congo. It's quite different. And so be cautious of putting money over memories and having money worship, because in the Quran we are told, do not kill your children out of fear of poverty. And we know that this world, we are a wayfarer. It was temporary. We don't know how long we're going to be here. And it's hard to let go of greed for some, and it's hard not to be tempted by cash. You want to have that posh lifestyle sometimes. But sometimes you can just be satisfied by looking at others have it. I like caviar. I can't buy any caviar right now, so I'll just look at pictures of it on Instagram. That's good enough. Well, you know, what are you going to do? I want to go to Tokyo and ride the trains. I want to go to Japan and be on the trains. I don't think I'll ever be able to afford to do that. But I can watch YouTube videos. So you just gotta, cope with the way you can. Now, spoiled rich kids, I wrote here, and they don't ever see their parents. So I think it's odd that women are like, these feminists, well, you'll be in poverty, and you won't have as much money, and work. And you think to yourself, why are so many rich kids who their parents are always busy, they put their kids in boarding school? These are not well-adjusted individuals, pill-popping, sexual deviants. There's a reason why so many movies depict that rich kid as like, oh no, the spoiled one. Yeah, they had all the materialism, but they didn't have the love and the guidance. They didn't have that bond. So if you really look at it, like me, my dad, he cared more about his music that he was making, and my mom cared more about her stripping and drugs. They clearly chose their lifestyles over raising me, and I was raised with my grandparents, my step-grandpa and my grandma. My grandma, she had dog showing. She definitely loved her dogs more than me, and she just didn't really care much about doing anything for me at all. Didn't cook for me, really. My grandpa would do that, step-grandpa. And my step-grandpa was at work all the time. So I was pretty much a street kid, just roaming around, going to school disheveled, just walking along the train tracks, walking under the bridge, doing whatever the heck I wanted, and no one really cared what I was doing at all. And I used to get jealous of people who's like, they got a mom who kisses them on the forehead, tucks them in, a feminine mom who teaches them how to have style, a dad who's watching over them, that if a boy was to attack them, the dad would like put a bullet in their head. That was something that I craved. And today, I'm able to be that mom I always wanted. No mom is perfect, no doubt. But I put my kids first before anything. And I love them. And no amount of salary is going to take that away from me. Inshallah. And so, spoiled rich kids, they're not more adjusted. Having a parent who loves you and you exist together and you suffer together is wonderful. I recall Joe Rogan, he interviewed a black comedian woman. I don't remember her name. It was years ago. But she said her welfare kids were more down to ride than the kids that she had later on after she had made a career for herself and had money. Your kids who grew up with poverty, they had a value of $1. They had more business sense, more common sense. But your pampered kids, they didn't know the value of $1. They had more entitlement. So yeah, you can be wealthy, but it's fascinating how many pampered kids, they expect the world to unfold for them. Whereas children who grew up in poverty have more gratitude and appreciation and more grind. They're stronger. They don't buckle as easily. And I think that's a stereotype, is, tale as old as time. A king has a son, and the son is a fuckwit. He's drinking, he's whoring, he's not doing much. And then you see the peasants like a hog farmer, a sheeper, a shepherder, you know, his son is doing the damn thing. He's busting it out and minding less and has a more fulfilling life, right? A tale as old as time. So the gray shirt lady should think more about that, about how many of these pampered brats don't really have a sense of self-reliance. Now, she said that stay-at-home mothers are more likely to be depressed. Now, I wrote here, spacious living, nature, hobbies, cabin fever, occupied mind, and hands, etc. are solutions. So, depression comes sometimes through lack of mental stimulation. That's why I'm always reading, trying to learn. That's why I do like social media in terms of like, okay, I can look up a recipe here, I can look at a picture of an eagle here, I can watch a video of, a bull rider getting bucked off a bull. I can have an exchange with a feminist before she blocks me. I can discuss ideas, I can see what's going on. Okay, I can write something, I can record something, I can read my books, I can cook. I'm always doing something. I have downtime and I have a structure around prayers. Okay, I gotta learn about Islam here, I gotta do this, I'm gonna read some Quran, I'm gonna read some Hadith. I keep my mind going, always doing something. And I'll read to the children at night. There's always something that I'm doing. But if you sit around like my mom, drinking soda, smoking cigarettes, and watching Real Housewives, the brain rot induces. You're gonna be more depressed. Okay? And if you have a house and a yard, utilize that space. A garden is a wonderful thing. Vegetable, flowers, you name it. Have a beehive, a chicken coop. Things that keep you busy. Things that keep you busy. And hobbies, I always mention this. You have a sewing machine, you have painting, you have soap making, candle making. You have, let's say, you just enjoy playing chess with your neighbor. Something that you can do, okay? An occupied mind is going to help keep a lot of depression away. You just have to figure out how to utilize that. You can put a fountain in your backyard. You can put a koi pond in your backyard. There's so much you can do. Have a fish tank. One thing I like about my birds is that they're background noise. They're always doing something. And each bird species has their own pros and cons. Find one that works for you. And this feminist also doesn't realize that working women, they get depressed too. Which is why they binge drink, which is why they smoke blunts, which is why they snort coke. Hello. They decompress after work as well. So, no matter what, we're going to face mental trials, whether you work or not. So, saying stay-at-home moms get depressed, therefore don't be a stay-at-home mom, work and ignore your kids, put them in a daycare, give them to a nanny to raise, and don't do your job as a mom, it just doesn't make sense at all. Because like in the movie Succession, not the movie, the TV series Succession on HBO, those people, they're still depressed, even though they're flying around in private helicopters. Like Kendall Roy, who is like the firstborn, he wants to be CEO, he's always depressed. He can go to spas, he can eat whatever he wants, and he's still depressed. It's like some people, it's just never gonna be enough. What makes one person happy, they ain't gonna make another person happy. It's just hilarious when you really look at the surface. I remember Adnan Rashid, he did a video, he went to Africa, and these little poor children were splitting a Coca-Cola soda, and they were just happy being with each other. We got a Coke, this is great. And you're like, look at that. They're happy just having a soda. Meanwhile, you see people who, they can go on to vacation to the Bahamas, they'll be pissed that their hotel didn't have the certain type of breakfast they wanted. So it's fascinating, truly, when you look at it. Depression is going to come no matter what. Try to live in a place that's going to offer you ways to cope with that stress. Now, The most retarded thing that this woman said was that working women spend more time with their kids than stay-at-home moms did in the 1960s. That's an absurd lie. And Jubilee didn't fact-check her, but Candace Owens called that out. That doesn't logically make sense, and this just shows you how far feminists are from reality and how fast they're about to lie. If a woman is literally at home, she's going to spend more time with the kid. You can't spend more time with a kid while you're at work. You're at work. What the hell is she talking about? Does she think in the 1960s parents just like opened the door and said goodbye, don't come home till the afternoon? What is going on here? So that was a totally retarded take, but she had the most attitude so far with Candace I've seen. So I wonder if like she rewatches that and realizes how stupid it is that she said that. A working woman spends more time with her kids than a stay-at-home mom did in the 1960s. That's impossible. You can't be in two places at once. If the woman who's at home all day with her kids, how is she spending less time than the person who isn't at home and is at work? You see? But what you notice here, feminists, when they get cornered, they become more illogical. They just start spouting anything out to get out of the... They see they're losing, and they just start saying random stupid things to get out of the conversation. You know, it's quite bizarre. Quite bizarre. So, no, a working woman does not spend more time with her kids. Feminists just have to admit, I like money more than I like my kids. I like being away from my kids. That's what they should say. Instead of masquerading as like, oh, actually, we're better moms because we work. No, you want money, you want fancy clothes. You don't enjoy your kids. So that's why you're doing everything that it is that you're doing. Okay? Now, Candace points out that what men and women want are different, and that they both want something different out of life. And so the camera starts pointing, and it goes on the male feminist, and the male feminist, he's like making a stupid face. And this is what's really disgusting about male feminists that's repulsive. That they've been brainwashed by the feminists to masquerade as allies, while also denying reality. I don't want the same thing men want. Like, if I could have a koi fish pond, some puppies, you know, some African gray parrot, a bald eagle, a Clydesdale horse, a massive library. Like, these are like, what I would want wouldn't even really make sense to some people, right? They'd be like, what? Like, 10 kids. It sounds like, I don't give a damn anymore about, like, there was a time where I wanted to be like the Dumbledore of philosophy at some university or something. But now I'm like, nah. It's alright. If it happens, it happens. It don't, it don't. I'm gonna still keep learning, do what I want to do. But my husband's goals, totally different, you know? And so that's fine. But male feminists are so, like, sneaky and swarmy and, like they don't get really picked by feminists, and when they do, they get cheated on with someone who's more traditionally testosterone, we'll put. You know, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But I'm telling you, man, if a male feminist is shocked that men and women want different things out of life, he ain't the one. Because a common sense male will be like, yeah, men and women are different, and that's okay. The male is not like the female, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran. Now, Candace also mentioned that it was hard to find a nanny who could cook. And I thought to myself, that's a good job for me then. Because I've thought about that. Before I had kids, I was going to be a live-in maid cook. When I first met my husband. And, you know, I would totally do that. Not a live-in, though, because now I have my family. But people see women are like, whoa, how are you going to find a job without a college degree? I'll cook your kids up some Chinese food, Mexican food, you name it. Talk about philosophy, talk about theology. I don't even need to make that much. Pay me $20 an hour, I'll be there. Because I like kids, you know, they're chill. And if my kids are all grown up, I'm gonna have to find something to do. Either do it, foster children, or have a daycare or something, you know. But I thought about, oh wow, if Candace with her money is having a hard time finding a nanny who can cook, that puts a star on my aura. Because I could do that. That means I could charge double. Charge double. Candace, hire me. Now, Candace also points out that feminist has made women think that there is something fundamentally wrong with learning how to cook, and the feminists start laughing. But then, if you look at Shira 7, she tells women don't cook. Don't cook, don't clean. I've listened to a lot of Shira 7 stuff because I despise her. She has some good points on other things. You're like, okay, I see what you're saying. But on other stuff, I'm like, nah. And Shira claims to have a degree in culinary arts. I think she's lying. Because if you study culinary arts, you fall in love with it, and you wouldn't tell women not to do it. Now, Shira will say, cook for you and your kids, don't cook for your man. I'm sorry. When you like cooking for everybody, and you get really happy when you get to share your food with people and they eat your food. It's a great feeling. And so I don't really believe that Shira has a degree at all or any skills whatsoever with culinary arts. She shares vlogs with how she eats, and she's fat for her age, and she claims to be a vegetarian, but she's still fat. So I'm like, nah, you're not as good as a cook as you say you are. And she does admit to ordering DoorDash a lot, and I'm wondering, what are you eating on DoorDash that is making you a bit of a porker, right? And so, no, I'm not really falling for her propaganda, but if you go back, like, I've archived quite a lot of these feminist takes concerning how they shame cooking, how they view cooking, and they do think it's beneath them and it is a sort of genderized role that they shouldn't do. And I'd argue less women today know how to cook really good meals, and that is quite sad because it's a life skill. And schools don't really have those kind of programs. They'll teach you to be a eunuch and a rainbow weirdo and sodomy, but they won't teach you a cooking class. But if you look at some of the videos coming out of China, they have quite young children learning culinary art skills, which is props for China. Respecting food and where it comes from. And I really admire that because it's really important to teach kids those life skills. Because whether you're watching bushcraft videos of cooking, or diners, drive-ins, and dives, or some ASMR cooking that's like in Japan or something, it's still very important. But when these feminists do these artificial laughs and the camera Jubilee goes onto them, it's very performative. A lot of these feminists, the male and female ones, are performative. They're playing a part, they're being facetious, they're not genuine, they're not authentic. Candace is coming with her all, but they're pretending as if feminists don't consistently mock cooking. I cook constantly. Over my children, I love cooking, and it makes me fulfilled, and I'm a self-made chef. And I've worked in I'm a stay-at-home mom now, but before I was in the culinary arts field, and I love it. But there's no doubt about it that feminists don't respect cooking like that. They don't. Now, if they go out to a fine dining restaurant, they'll be like, yeah, this is great, but feminists on average are not praising those who are cooking. They'll call you a pick-me-sha, a pick-me, if you like cooking and want to share your food. They just don't have a respect for that. And so, if you tell a woman learn how to cook, why? I can just order pizza. I can just go out to eat. They don't have the same admiration for it. And this is why you also see so many women sharing their terrible cooking stuff. And you're like, oh my goodness, what's going on here? It's really quite bizarre. But also, the lack of women cooking allows the ethos to cosplay as cooks and focus the camera on their tits as they do some type of weird recipe, and men fall for it and they get mad money. So you're like, What a strange world. When men cook, they gotta show you the technique and the product. When now the new generation of women cooks, they just put the camera on their tits and they don't even talk about the food. So it's like, it's so ridiculous. You know? It's like a weird world we live in. But, Candace, give me a job. I'll make some real macaroni and cheese, not that box stuff. You know what I'm saying? Let me know what you think. Man, Candace has a lot of patience to deal with these ladies. They are just insufferable. Beyond human comprehension. Beyond human comprehension. Please like, comment, subscribe, join the blog. Do it now. Do it. Surah 2 Al-Baqarah, Ayat 268. Satan threatens you with poverty and orders you to immorality, while Allah promises you forgiveness from Him and bounty, and Allah is all-encompassing and knowing.